Salute to all the real ones out there. It's your boy Mike coming at you again with another video. Yo, y'all like the content I've been dropping, the direction that my channel was headed in. I need you to like, comment, subscribe, and share my videos with anybody else you think may benefit from them, alright? Now, today's topic is going to be called Internal Guidance, Follow Your Heart. Alright, Internal Guidance, Follow Your Heart. And the reason why I came up with that topic is because over the last weeks, I would even say months, I've been doing a lot of soul searching to determine what should be my next major move, right? And over the course of this new year, we're in 2022, January is almost over, I had a real strong epiphany. So any of you guys who have visions and things like that, you can attest to what I'm about to say here. It happened at a random moment. I was basically with a group of friends. My wife was also with me. She came out here to visit. And I had like a real strong vision in the moment that I was hanging out with friends. We were playing spades and it hit me like a lightning bolt that it's time for me to make a pivot in my life, right? So I would say for maybe a 30-minute period, I was getting deja vu and just having a forecast into the future. And it's like my subconscious mind was questioning me on whether what I saw around me was conducive to what I should be doing in terms of my purpose, right? So I felt really compelled to make this video, and I'm just gonna jump right into it. All right, so as I mentioned in prior videos, I'm of the opinion that we all have a higher version of ourselves that attempts to communicate us throughout our lives. However true this may be, in this current day and age, it is rather easy to be so distracted that our own inner voice becomes drowned out or inaudible. So there are countless distractions that are meant to keep us away from thinking on a higher plane, and we can easily list them. For example, TV. Now, with TV, I'm not really so much affected by this because even where I live now, I can honestly tell you that I've never turned on the TV even once. I have not watched TV in a long time. Now, Netflix is another one that I can list there, but I'm only watching that if and when my wife is in the vicinity, and we're using that just as a way to wind down from the day. Social media, that's another one. I would like to say that I barely use social media. The only thing I actually have is YouTube, which is this channel where I'm trying to connect with like minds, and it also gives me an outlet for intellectual pursuits. You know, just the fact that I think about a lot of things and would like to share that with a broader audience who appreciates the content. That's one reason why I use YouTube. The other reason why I do it, YouTube specifically, is other thought-provoking content creators, you know, i.e. Academy of Ideas or Thinking Man's Templar. I also do research as far as old documentaries from, let's say, great black leaders who had forums when they did broadcasts. I would, you know, like to, from time to time, go back and listen to what they had to say about the plights that black people were facing, and then compare that to modern day times. Other things, you know, dealing with, you know, the health or the fitness industry. Like, YouTube is just a great platform if you want to sift through and find your own programs. So that's why I use that. And also for background music, often when I'm reading, I like to have like a jazz playlist from fantastic music playing. So things like that are why I use YouTube. Instagram I have not used in literally like the last 4 to 5 years. And then Facebook, I'm barely on Facebook itself. I just use Messenger to actually rekindle relationships. I have a bunch of people on either side of the family that, since I've lived overseas, I haven't really been talking to very often. And one of the things that I made up in my mind for this year is to reach out more often and establish those relationships. So social media doesn't really affect me, but I see that it's like plaguing our current time, because it's rare that you can even see somebody who can be off of their app for a day, you know. Useless information, that's another thing that will distract you, and that's gonna also come via the smartphone. I see people just reading through random things that really have no impact on the grand scheme of their lives, you know. So it's a way to kind of detach you from your destiny if you're not really honed in and focused on an internal mission that you've made for yourself, right? Work and school, that's totally understandable. And I feel for all the people that are going through specifically school, because compulsory education is, I've been there, other people have been there. When you go to higher institutions of learning, a lot of the times you just want to take a gun and shoot yourself in the damn head, because it just makes you feel like, wow, I have to learn all of this information. And a lot of the times it doesn't even have to do with the particular field of interest that caused you to sign up in the first place. You know what I mean? You have all these accessory classes before you actually get to the meat and potatoes of what you want to learn. And it's been said that a lot of the knowledge that you gain in, let's say, a 4-year degree program becomes useless. Half of it is invalid by the time you graduate. And every 2 years, it's like whatever you learned becomes null and void. So you're going to always have to learn throughout life, but I know school is another big distraction. Work, hey, that's just how it is. We're in a world where if you're not working or producing something for the greater good, you're unfortunately overlooked. And we all need to do something in order to make a living, right? Dating apps, whoa. So I'm a married man, I'm far removed here, but I see many people are, looks like they're searching for something that only is going to come by doing a self-analysis and working on their own internal issues. You have dating apps that will, let's say you're an attractive female, you're going to have probably thousands of men to choose from, but after a while, as I said in my one video, Zenith Quest, it's almost like you're looking at products instead of actual individuals. And no matter how cool these smartphones are, they'll never really be able to capture the entirety of an individual. And it's sad to say, but women definitely control the dating market, more so now than ever with dating apps, because they have options, and so many dudes don't value themselves and they just shoot their shot all over the internet. But what that does is that collectively makes us as men look thirsty and not worthy of respect, because you know, we're constantly looking for female validation. Pornography, yeah, this is definitely the demon that is ruling this generation, which is the lust demon. All right, has all of us looking for something that is unrealistic and keeps us in our lower nature, so that we never really ponder how to get in touch with our higher selves, because we're too busy being in a lustful sexual state. You see what I mean? And the big thing that I would just compel you to think about is, why do you think pornography is free? Just think about that for a minute. Like, everything that you really want to use, it usually has a price. Like, I know social media is quote unquote free, but what are you actually compromising? It's you're paying somehow. Just think about that for a minute. Why is it free? Nothing in this world is free. So when it comes to social media, you're giving up a bunch of your data, a bunch of your information, and you have no idea what's being done with that. Pornography is totally free. It's crippling masculinity. So I just want you to think about that. Marinate on the long-term effects of a whole generation being used to readily accessible pornography. All right. Then you also have sports, which, of course, most people have some type of sport that they find cool. I like watching track and field from time to time. I do like watching basketball highlights, and from time to time just being awed and inspired by athletes. But on the grand scheme, it's just a distraction, and it has no real impact on your actual day-to-day life. And then of course you have, last but not least, children, which I can't really say that they're distractions. Sad to say, I don't have any kids yet. I'm working on actually having my first one. And of course, as a parent, I would imagine that it's very difficult to actually get some me time. So from time to time, you might want to actually disengage from your kids because they are distracting you from what you want. So rarely does one have a moment of silence to ponder long enough to make sense of what is floating inside of their subconscious mind. And during occasional instances when the white noise fades into the background, it then becomes possible for subtle flashes of intuition to shine through and provide guidance if we tune in and listen. So when I think about my life, just as a way to kind of give you guys some insight as to what's happened to me, I remember back when I was in high school, thoughts of college would come in my head, but my intuition was telling me that it was smarter for me to graduate and immediately start working. What I noticed on more likely than not, was that many of my peers were being pushed to go to school, but they didn't really truly know what they wanted. It just felt like it was the next step that they were supposed to take. And there were thoughts that I could tell were being pushed on to the kids. So you have one kid here, for example, his parents graduated, so it's natural that they're going to push him to do the same thing. I can't really knock that. It's been proven that people who have a college education, more often than not, make more money over their lifetime than someone who doesn't graduate from a higher institution. Take another kid on this side. He has no idea what he wants to do, so he is going to go to college because everyone else around him is, and it just seems like the best thing to do. In my case, I just had a real strong internal feeling that college was not going to be on the horizon for me right after high school. I started working, I was making money, and it gave me a lot of structure as an adult, even though I was only 16, because I had the idea of how to budget my time as well as how to handle my money, and the taste of independence that I received from having my first job really set in motion a lot of other things that happened later on in life. Even taking when I moved out, I was 18, moved into my own place, had a roommate. All right, so it was just a really cool experience because I went from being a kid who was being told what to do, what time to be home, and having all these, let's say, rules put on me, which makes sense. Of course, if you're in a good home, your parent is going to give you some rules and boundaries. But moving out on my own gave me another taste of independence, which I never wanted to revert back to the other way of living, right? And it all came from an epiphany. Me just knowing, like, all right, me and my mom got into one last argument, and I said, I'm moving out. And literally the very next day I did, you see. I also had an epiphany when it was time for me to run with the wrong crowd. At the time, I was about 20 years old, working at Ruby Tuesdays as a waiter. And I came across a friend who immediately, upon him introducing himself, I knew that he was, for lack of better words, bad news. The energy that I got from him immediately put me down a crossroads in my mind. And one was, hey, don't mess with this guy and stay on your own path. And then the other side, which I actually chose, was, give him a shot. Maybe you learn something. He seems pretty cool. Yeah, that actually turned into me being somebody who went way against all of my principles and values. And I'm not blaming him. I mean, I wanted to hang with him. He was a cool guy. We spent some time together, but during that period, I was basically going against the grain, so to speak. And I hit rock bottom as an end result. And I went from being, let's say, independent, having my own car, to now having a warrant for my arrest, a suspended license, a car that was broke down, and literally sitting on my last few hundreds of dollars. From that period, I actually had another epiphany about leaving Ohio and doing something that would basically set me up for success, which was to join the Army. And no one agreed. No one thought it was a smart plan, but my inside was raging forward, telling me this is probably the best option and you should do it and have no fear, right? And then another epiphany was when it was time for me to leave the Army, how I decided to ultimately stay with my current wife in Germany, and this was back in 2011. I had no idea how it was supposed to go. I didn't have any handle on the German language, but I still went with my gut instinct. And overall, it's like every single time I listened to my intuition, it got me exactly where I needed to be. And in hindsight, I was able to take a lot of valuable lessons from those choices. Even when I didn't listen to my intuition and found myself in a jam or a tough situation, it's like my inner voice was giving me the guidance on how to handle what was in front of me. And I went against that wisdom. So I deserved to be burned, right? Now, the most recent examples of, let's say, internal guidance and following my heart actually came from, let's say, from 2019. So Dominican Republic was a vacation that my wife and I took. But before I actually went on that vacation, I had a really strong vision. All right. There was something just bubbling up inside of my psyche that said, you need to quit this job. All right. I was doing high-end security for a European boutique that's called Chopard. And I was a security manager working for that particular boutique in Cologne City, Germany. And I had a really strong vision that it was just time for me to end this job. So without even doubting myself, I directly called my then boss and told him, hey, in 1 month, I will be leaving the shop. And he had no replacement for me. I think they felt blindsided by it, but I didn't really care at that point because I had to trust myself. What happened? Directly left the job. And I want to say the very next weekend, my wife and I went to the Dominican Republic and had a really, really awesome time. And I came back and everyone was questioning my logic. Why would you just quit a job and not have something lined up? But I didn't listen to the naysayers. I was really following my intuition, following my heart. And the next thing that my inner psyche was telling me was, hey, work out and get yourself in really good shape. So that's all I did. I woke up every single morning, cleaned up, got into a really good routine of working out, helping my wife around the house, doing just, things like that. And what happened? I got an opportunity to come over as a contractor in Kuwait. So that was the next move, right? While I was working with the first company that I came with, there was another strong vision that I had, which was to get back into reading, particularly about self-help and investing. Without even a doubt, I just already had a list of all the books that I wanted to order. I stopped hesitating and started ordering books, right? Reading heavily about what I should do, started investing. Next vision came. My wife and I didn't even really know where we wanted to go. We decided on Thailand, all right? And at the very moment that we took the vacation in Thailand, that's exactly when COVID actually hit. So here we are 4 days into our vacation and I get word that I cannot come back to Kuwait because the border has been shut down. They said that I should go back to Germany and just kind of wait this thing out. No one knew how long Corona would take to blow over. I was expected to be back home for another 2 weeks, so I thought, cool, I took vacation at a perfect time. Now I can enjoy 2 more weeks in Germany. 2 weeks wound up becoming like 6 to 7 months. So through following my intuition, I was actually able to get my motorcycle license when I was back in Germany, spend time with my wife for our birthdays, and I didn't have to go through the real terrible situation that was happening in Kuwait at that moment for all the people that were locked in country and could not leave without losing their job. All right. Even while I spent a year away from my wife after my return back to Kuwait, I had another vision, which was basically to keep myself sharp. All right. I had like the urge to update my resume, keep myself looking tight in my uniform, as always, right? But networking was another thing that kind of came up in my head. And I mean, seriously, like clockwork, at the perfect moment, I actually got the opportunity for the job that I work now. Even with the Hayabusa that you guys saw in my one video, Clairvoyant Epiphanies. I think also on the other video, Formless Oneness, you see me in the beginning sitting on the Hayabusa right now. That all came from a vision as well. I mentioned that also in Zenith Quest, taking the money out, getting the jacket and the gloves, and just feeling like I know I'm gonna get a bike. All right. Even in another upload, I mentioned having a dream about a motorcycle. So everything is coming like clockwork whenever you have that internal guidance and follow your heart. So the latest, let's say, epiphany that I had, as I said in the beginning, is that it's time for me to uproot from Kuwait. I still don't know exactly all of the details, but the feeling inside of me is so strong that I have to listen to it, right? So I say all that to say this. For all of you who are listening to this video, whenever you get a real strong urge from your intuition, I really want you to listen to it, okay? Because we all have a higher self that I think, based on our frequency, based on our energy level, based on our health and our mindset at the particular time, that higher self has either easier access to help guide you, or it has a hard time reaching you based on what you're doing on this physical plane. All right. So take a person who's doing yoga, meditating and reading a bunch of books, and overall is in a very good state of health, mind, body, and soul. It's probably going to be easier for that person's higher self to communicate and have a strong effect on that individual in a positive way, right? Versus someone who is always in a drunken stupor, is being attacked by a bunch of low energy vibrations, and maybe even has all different types of demons attaching on to his spirit. It's going to be very hard for the higher self to even reach this individual, because they're constantly burying themselves in all of this negativity, right? So I challenge everybody to basically follow their heart. All right, there's a reason why you get these feelings, and I think there's no way to really avoid it. If you act like you don't hear your inner intuition and move against it, trust me, you will be haunted. You will be haunted, whether it be from a bad situation that you can't really get away, whether it be you're in a toxic relationship or what have you. You could have avoided all of it if you listen to your internal guidance. So with that being said, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll holler at y'all on the next one.